welcome to Awaken the Rebel with Shireen Thor. I'm a little groovy today because we have I don't even know what to say about her. My favorite guest ever on the planet, because she's one of my best friends, so she's one of my favorite people ever on the planet. Today we have the freaking amazing, miraculous, magical, coolest chick on the planet. Can I say wicked cool? Christina Dunbar. Aye. All right, so Christina Dunbar, she's the coolest. Check her out at ChristinaDunbar.com. She is an artist, a mentor. She has her own one-woman show called Dirty Me Divine that she tours all over the United States of America and soon to be, everywhere else. She's actually the creator of a program called Red, which has miraculously changed my life, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And I feel like I wouldn't do her justice with an introduction if I didn't just say this woman is one of the most powerful, loving souls I have ever encountered. So thank you, Dunbar, for being here, girl.
And the tears begin.
I know!
With that introduction. You're so sweet.
I love you. Are you kidding? Too much love. We're going to just gross you guys out with love today.
Gush. Are you ready?
It's disgusting. Okay, so Christina, for the people out there on the planet who have not yet encountered you, I would love for you to just tell us a little bit of your story, how you came to be the person you are doing what you're doing now, where you started, how you got there. Give me the goods.
Yeah. So it's so cool to hear myself on the mic. This is a big deal for me. I've done podcasts, but not quite like this. Actually, I've done 2 that are in
a studio.
And the reason I bring this up is because I was somebody that was so afraid of using my voice. I was terrified. I came into the world very shy, very artistic soul, which I think of an artistic soul as tender, sensitive, really, just kind of afraid of the world. And not actually so much the world, but I think I was afraid of people. I never felt like I really belonged in the world. I always thought people were kind of strange and scary. And this is starting when I was a little kid. And I used to talk to my dad. I would sit on my dad's lap when I was 3 and 4 and be like, someday everybody's gonna die and let's talk about death and all these very trippy things that people my age were like, what is wrong with her? She's stupid and weird. And so I just didn't feel like I belonged because I wanted to go super duper deep.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to connect soul to soul. Now that I'm older, I'm realizing I just wanted to drop the masks and go right in. But of course, how do you do that when you're 4 and 5 and 6 and a teenager even? So what happened was I was just so afraid of using my voice and being heard and afraid of being rejected. I never had a lot of friends in school. So my story, so much of my journey has been about facing the fear and doing it anyway, because as I got older and older, I knew I wanted to use my voice. I knew I wanted to be an artist. If you want to hear all parts of my story, I started a business, as you know, with my soul sister, and we were doing personal growth retreats and things like that. But I didn't feel like that was really fulfilling my full soul destiny. And grew up in Seattle, Washington, came to Hollywood at about 19 years old. I just jumped forward actually because I did the business later. But when I first came to Hollywood, this funny, shy girl ran out of money, and guess what I decided to do?
Oh, shit.
I became a burlesque dancer at first, and then I started stripping and had a lot of shame around that, a lot of fear around using my sexuality, but also wasn't quite ready to use my voice, even in the strip club. So there was a lot of boundaries that were being crossed that I wasn't saying no to. Again, just in that sort of good girl, shy, nice, quiet space, but also in the strip club, finding my animal and my power and the part of me that could seduce people and bring people in and do sales. I mean, it was a sales job, really. Yeah. But I was using my body, but I also had to use my personality to get people to come to the champagne room, because Las Vegas is where I dance, and that place is very competitive. So you have to be able to just be on. So I was learning a lot, but wasn't fully using my voice. Started a business, as I said, was doing a lot of my own personal growth work around my voice and how to use it. Started to connect more to my body, started to connect more also to healing, because at the time I was in a lot of pain and shame around my body, and I had, and this is in my one person show, I had this ovarian pain, this physical pain. I didn't know what was going on. And I was going to the doctors and doing all the right things, but they were like, nothing's really wrong with you. So I started to really get into like emotional body connection and found out, oh, this pain, this physical pain is a manifestation of the shame that I'm feeling for being sexual in the strip club, for not using my voice. I had shame around not using my voice. So all these different things that felt very much like self-hate and doubt. And so that manifested physically, started to really get into what is the mind, body, spirit connection. And especially for women, so many women not feeling like they can use their voice, not feeling okay about their sexuality, having trauma around their sexuality. So that's when I started the business of like with my bestie, and was like helping other people because I'd healed that ovarian pain through doing some emotional work and
so awesome.
Forgiving myself. Started the business, was like, this is great, this is awesome, but I want to be an artist. I want to get on stage. So I left that, started to do my one-woman show, started to write it, started to create it, and then went after it and like was doing all the steps that felt really scary, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm like, this has to happen. This is my soul's work. I need to be on stage. When I was little, I used to want to dance. I used to want to express, and a lot of that went away when I was older. And I just felt like that whisper, or, well, let's say this. When I was stripping, I had a lot of evenings where I would go to sleep and just cry because I felt like I wasn't living my soul's calling. So it was like this mixture of feeling shame, doing the stripping thing, but even more than dancing, I think it was like, I'm not doing what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
That was really sad to me. So getting on stage was really about like, this is what I'm here for. I knew that I was here to be an artist and to use story, to get vulnerable, to connect to other people, to do all the things that I wanted to do when I was little, like take off the masks and just go right in. And art is such a beautiful, easy way to bypass somebody's head, and really get into their heart.
Big time.
By being vulnerable and telling our story. So that's what I started to do with Dirty Me Divine. And it was my journey of dancing and stripping and finding my voice and all that good stuff.
And healing and soul and spirituality. Like,
yes.
Yeah, I've totally seen Dirty Me Divine. And for those of you listening, it's so fun. She like does these spiritual characters. Like she pretends she's the guru that she was learning from. Like, you know, she like plays out that character. And it's just so interesting. It's really interesting because there's so many layers. Like, you know, we are currently in the middle of like the breakdown of the patriarchy where like women only are supposed to be one thing. Like we're now really seeing women step out in all of their different layers of the onion and really like singing it loud and proud. And I feel like your show does such a good job of showing all the sides of a woman. Like you weren't just a stripper. You were a human being who had a soul and felt that shame and sought healing. And there's a spiritual side of you. Like it's just such a cool journey to watch the show and see the transformation that you went through in your story. And I really believe, like, by the end of the show, like, you really do, as a woman, feel like, it's okay for me to be dirty and divine. Like, you're, like, stoked. It's, like, so good.
That, what you just said about I'm not just a stripper, that was the lie I was telling myself for so many years that really hurt. Because we're taught to put ourselves in these boxes, like whatever it is. It could be like that you are a career person and so you're just the career, or you're a stay-at-home mom and so you're like just a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
But we're taught to think in these boxes. And at the time that I was dancing, I was like, I am just a stripper. Of course, that wasn't true, but I hadn't owned and integrated all these parts of myself. So that was a big deal to get rid of that and be like, hey, I can be a stripper and be I was the spiritual stripper for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Like, reading all the Carolyn Mace, Joseph Campbell books on the way to Vegas in the plane, you know,
so good.
Manifesting, I need to make a certain amount of money tonight. I'm going to manifest and pray.
I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, but we can be so much more than one thing. And even as artists, just to take it to a different place here, I think so many artists as well get stuck in like, well, I have a day job.
Right.
And so I'm not making money as for my art. So I'm not an artist. I'm not a real artist.
Yeah.
So just like fucking with all of those labels and rules that we put on ourselves and being like, no, you can work a day job and perform in the evening and you're an artist. You're an artist because you're expressing the song in your soul. Right?
So good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, girl. This is actually why I was so excited to have you on, because I just feel like I just feel like when we get together and we talk, like we always jam out like philosophy geek 5000. Like we just go to town. Like when Christina and I hang out, we literally talk about like that Dharma book. Can you tell us a little bit about that Dharma book? Like,
yeah. So first of all, Shireen, I love you because you're not one thing. Shireen is, as you'll see on this podcast, super duper funny and philosophical and deep and a mama and a personality and got this awaken the rebel thing going on.
Stop
it's
it,
so
girl.
Cool. I love that.
Thank you.
But the Dharma book, the Dharma book was really about finding your purpose. And I think that's such a big word, and I kind of don't love that word because I feel like it feels really heavy.
Yeah.
But what I've been geeking out over a lot is like our soul. And this, it's not a very American myth, but so I'll backtrack here. The idea here in America is like you can be anything that you want, anything at all. And in different mythologies, Greek mythologies, for instance, the stories, the myths that are told is that your soul comes into this earth with certain traits and gifts and talents and a certain path. And we also, when we come into this earth, we forget all of that as we go through the birth canal. But it is our sacred duty to find out what our soul's path is and to follow that, to follow our North Star. And I think sometimes that can be really subtle. Like purpose doesn't just drop in your lap and you're like, that's what I'm here to do. I mean, some people I think have that from a young age, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Because we don't have in our society elders that are shepherding and watching out for what is this soul really truly here for. So we don't have people guiding us, and so we get super duper lost in that area. But the Dharma book, to your point, the Dharma book was all about trusting that, finding that, and I'm like forgetting the name right now, otherwise I would totally plug it.
We'll put it in the notes, don't worry.
That book really supported me in remembering, I'm here for a reason. I'm here. I have a path. I can trust that. I can trust what I call the whispers, the nudges that come from inside. I think sometimes we feel things in our body, our heart, our gut, our spirit, but society has a whole different agenda for us, really. And society is just pushing agendas on us all the time, from corporations to the things we see on Instagram, to the things we see on Facebook, to our parents, to our teachers. So it's really difficult sometimes to go in and be like, no, I trust that weird thing that's telling me to quit my job and do this thing or whatever it is. Oh my gosh,
yes. I mean, this is such an exciting conversation for me because it's actually it just resonates as so true just from my experience. So I certainly wouldn't project this onto anyone, but if you're freaking listening to this podcast, I'm going to assume you felt a little bit of this shit, because otherwise why would you be listening to this?
Felt the shit.
You felt the shit. Yeah, because I just feel like, I came into a family that was like, you need to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. You don't get to be an artist. That certainly is not accepted here. And yet, as a child, I was not a child, but as let's say a teenager, I was so drawn to dance, and I was always wanted to sing, and it was just sort of really natural for me to want to perform and express. But yet I was told from society or family or all that stuff you were mentioning, no, that's not an option for us. That's not our path. That's not what we do. And you will be shameful to our community if you do that. We will disapprove of you overtly, and your mom will be embarrassed, all that kind of stuff. So you want to make mama proud. So you're like, I'm supposed to be a doctor. But it's I don't want to freaking do that, dude. I don't want to be in school forever. That isn't even, I don't give a crap. I remember being a kid in school and being like, what's the point? I legit was no, seriously, why am I learning algebra? Can somebody give me the purpose behind this? I actually don't give a shit right now because I don't really see the purpose behind this. I am an old lady now, and I'm still having that conversation, I think I was always someone who sought meaning and needed meaning to drive me. And when I didn't have that, it felt very empty. So I did feel like I was very much just following with society's expectations and checking the boxes, and it just felt like such a vapid existence until I finally had my quarter life crisis and was like, I can't anymore, dude. And I went to that seminar and quit the master's degree and started doing stand-up comedy. So to your point of Dharma, I feel like you actually can't avoid it. I don't think it's an option. I think we can try, and I think we can try to check the boxes and be normal and sit in our little cubicles and do what we're supposed to do and get our white picket fence. But I just feel like like you said, the whispers, the nudges, like your soul will continue to nag at you and ache.
Yeah. Especially,
for-
I think, people that are listening to your show specifically, because
Yeah.
there's definitely people that can kind of do that and be okay with it. And it might be their path to do that thing. But I think creative, philosophical, those that are always seeking meaning, because you mentioned meaning, I
Yeah.
think that's a big, big important thing to remember when you are on the path of soul and dharma. You are searching for meaning.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is as simple as like, how can I put more meaning into the thing I'm already doing? Because
Exactly.
if it doesn't have meaning, we feel dead inside.
Exactly. And it was so good for me to join Red with you when I did 6 months ago, because at that point I had gotten married. I had started Waken the Rebel as this business that was mostly poised to break out of the 9-to-5 and become an entrepreneur. And it certainly had a creative edge only because I had a stand-up comedy background, but it really wasn't a creative, like I wasn't helping people do much comedy other than the one time I did the do stand-up for the first time class. But that was a one-off. Most of the time I was really talking to people about having a passion-based business and blah, blah, blah. So I had the babies, and then I knew I was done making babies, and I knew it was like sort of time for me again to like just have space for myself. And I joined your program, Red, because I felt called to. I think I wanted sisterhood and community, and I certainly wasn't associating myself as an artist. I just was like, yeah, man, I just want like self-care, and I think this will help me do that. We'll meet like once a month on Saturday, and I'll have all my sisters, and I just figured it was kind of a nourishing thing to do for me because I knew it was like time for me. And the second I joined your program, weird artsy dharma things started happening out of like the universe's butthole. Like literally just like, what? Like, Brian Moot hollering at me, or actually I hollered at him like, hey man, I just heard you on the radio. And he was like, we should do a podcast. And I was like, well, I didn't expect that. That's fascinating that my old comedy friend is now sort of like bringing me back into the world of comedy. So like, this is what I mean by like, your dharma ain't gonna leave you, boo. Like, it's not going to leave you. Like what you are meant to do is what you are meant to do is what you are meant to do is what you are meant to do. Like, that's it,
I think that's part of the message that we are really wanting to, get into people's brains today is like, again, you are here for a reason and a purpose, and to find that, to explore what that is. And for you with Red, it's again, like, it's not always like, oh, I'm going to do this thing because it's going to help my career. That's not dharma necessarily, right? And when you came into Red, it was just such freedom to just see and explore and express. And I think with you finding your artist, it was almost like finding all of these different gateways and portals, what happened later, to different ways to express the artist more in your life, in your business, in the things that you were creating. But it didn't start with the idea like, how do I get to this end result?
Yeah.
That is so logical and so reasonable. And I swear, when we're living the life of dharma, it is not about that.
Right. Yeah, because that's something that comes out of your ego. When you're thinking about like, how do I get to this place? It's like, I just want to get this result. How do I get there? And like, that's really being led from your ego. But like, your spirit is really where your soul will speak from. So it's just like so important to listen, I'm
going to quote Kyle Cease, because I was at one of his events a few months ago, and he was like, drop that question. How do I get this thing? Drop that out of your system. I don't know if those were his exact words, but that's how I took it. He was like, it's not about how you get to that thing. It's like, who do you need to become to allow that thing to come in, right? So like, if you want to reach so many people through your podcast or your business or whatever you're doing, who do you need to become to touch people, to connect to people? Because your soul isn't thinking in numbers and statistics.
Right.
It is not. It is feeling its way through.
Yeah.
And that feeling and that intuition is something that, again, in this society, we're not taught to trust. But it is the thing that I think, again, for creatives, where there is no rule book necessarily of how to get to wherever you want to get to. There's no rule book. So the more you can listen to intuition and just hear the next step and go for the next step, it's almost like breadcrumbs. And then the next one will appear, and then the next one will appear.
Yeah.
And
it's beautiful. And I just think like for you guys listening, just let it be okay to be totally illogical and playful and like unreasonable sometimes. Like, like one thing that came through with Red was I just really wanted to learn the ukulele. Like literally ever since I was in college, I wanted to like sit and strum a guitar and sing. I don't know why, but there's no real purpose for that. It's not going to like make a difference for me on podcasts or radio or in life coaching or in motherhood. Maybe some fun moments with my kids, you know, but like certainly not going to monetize. I'm not going to go make money off a ukulele, but will I make money off having higher levels of energy and feeling inspired and alive and feeling joy? Fuck yeah.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. It's not a straight line.
Yeah.
You playing the ukulele, again, fills your soul. Like in different, you know, the more indigenous cultures, it was all about the music and the dancing and the drumming and the singing and community. And that was what raised the spirits. And I think with you, the ukulele, it allows you to have more energy. It allows you to access another part of yourself. I think our brain can think in only very limited ways. And art helps to expand our brain so that we actually get more information and create different, our imagination opens up.
Yeah.
So maybe something we didn't see before, now all of a sudden we see that next step or we see a next path. Or to give a very tangible example of this. So Lisa Stedman and I, we are writing basically a TV series based off of my one-person show. And we needed to have a bunch of money to film our videos that we were filming for. We're doing this YouTube thing and we're going to launch them and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, point is we needed a bunch of money and I got super like stressed about it. Like, how are we going to do this? And it was how? And I could feel the pressure and I was in my mind. And then one day I was just sort of looking out my window and doing that dreamy thing that you do where you relax the brain. And I was just playing with the question and looking around my yard, my front yard, and the trees and the grass and the green, and just like letting myself sort of melt. And the next morning I woke up, ding, 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 we're going to do a fundraiser. And this is how we're going to do it. And so I hadn't thought of that idea before when I was stressing on the how, and I was totally in my brain and I was trying to figure it out. But something about relaxing and getting more into the soul, the spirit, the play, this thing came through.
Beautiful idea.
And I was like, oh, those are the next steps. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And if I had just kept trying to soldier on and figure it out, I wouldn't have. It was stressful.
And it was an awesome fundraiser, girl. You guys put on an amazing show. We were all like so happy to be a part of launching this super ridiculously empowering project off the ground. It was, I mean, not only was it a great idea, but it was like a joy for all the people who got to support it, you know? So cool. So friggin' cool. Okay, so for someone who's listening to this, who maybe is like in a cubicle, like a job they don't like, and are wondering how to freaking get their dharma on, what do you say to them? What are your thoughts around like what could support them right now?
I would say do the thing that expands you after the cubicle. Like if you have this weird inkling, I want to play the ukulele, I want to take a salsa class, I don't know how this playful thing is going to support me, it doesn't make sense, but I just have this nudge, try this cooking class, whatever that nudge is, to do it. Because the more you get into that expansive place versus contracted, like most people, not most, but the people that we're talking to that are in a cubicle and not happy, feeling that contraction, they're not open to what's the next step. So what are the things that can get you open? How can you play more? How can you find people that maybe are doing things that you want to be doing and let them be your examples, your North Star? They don't even have to personally mentor you, but if you could just see in your mind's eye who that person is, it becomes really helpful. Because I know for me, when I don't have somebody that I'm looking up to and I'm just feeling like really stuck and I don't know what I'm doing and my subconscious is telling me it's not possible, it's so helpful to be like, but who's doing something similar and who's succeeding at it?
Yeah.
And they could be my mentor and I don't even have to talk to them. I could journal and ask them questions, right? Like journal and then ask them what I want to know and then take maybe a different color crayon or something and have them answer back. Because again, now you're activating your imagination and that's where so much can come, so many new next steps and ideas and visions can come from. So do the things that activate your imagination. Go play. I know it's so weird.
It's so good though. I actually love that. I just love that advice so much. I feel like it's out of the box. It's so weird. It's not something you'd expect. It's not something you would think about. It's not rational. But I think that's what we're trying to do here is to like break up the boxes and break up the limitations and like almost like shake up the energy a little bit to where people are like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. And like just have some fun and see what happens. Like you don't know what's going to happen. Like I didn't know that when I picked up a ukulele, I would literally grin ear to ear and like be geeked out. Like I was like, oh my God, stop smiling. You are retarded. You look ridiculous right now. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't even calm my joy down. Like even if I talked about playing the ukulele, I was just like, I was like so geeky excited. And I didn't know that was going to happen until I was willing to say yes and do this weird thing that was just like for no reason. And there it was. I was like, oh, I get it. Like, I don't know why I want to play this, but man, my soul's so freaking stoked.
Totally. And that creates a different state for you.
Exactly.
I think it was Tony Robbins.
It's totally Tony Robbins.
Right? Who talks about state. Like,
yes.
It's not about, we always say we don't have enough time. It's not the amount of time you have. It's the way you enter a certain thing on your to-do list. If you have the energy for it, if you're in the right state, you can get so much more done. So you playing the ukulele brought you into a certain state, which then affects the rest of your day, your week, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that, girl.
Yeah.
All right, peeps. So for those of you listening, do something weird, you know? Like get out of the box. Have some fun. Be a creep. Whatever it looks like. I don't freaking know. Christina, where can everybody find you? ChristinaDunbar.com is my website, and then I'm on Instagram. Christina Dunbar is the handle, and Facebook. Christina.dnbr is my handle on Facebook. Find her. She's amazing. Listen to her. She's amazing. And for those of you who are with us, thank you so much for your time.
I love you.
Christina, I seriously love you so much. I would love for you to be a reoccurring guest here.
Done and done.
Right? Because you're just like so on point. Like the message is like the same. Like I just feel like you bring a different flair to it, and I'm like, oh man, I love it. It's just, and you know what else, by the way, like for those of you listening, I always love like having these conversations with you because you do bring that like tribal energy, the like energy of how people used to shepherd people before. You like talk about the Dharma. There's sort of like a deep historic generational vibe you bring that I feel like we're missing. Like, we are so obsessed with like social media and like Gary V, like create content. Like we're just so out in the future. We forget about like the past and where we've come from. And there's just something about you and this conversation that you really bring that historical, like rooted old soul energy. And so girl, come back like so many times because I will never get over that conversation. Like I just think people need to feel into the fact that they aren't just here on a whim and there's no reason and we're just supposed to like produce and progress and be productive. Like there is so much like depth and purpose and meaning, and just like it's just amazing that we're all here. It's like a miracle that we're all here, and I feel like we need to revel in that and enjoy that and like experience the play and the joy and just being alive, you know? So
totally.
So thank you for being part of this conversation and like adding so much gasoline to this freaking fire that I hope we stoke for life.
Hopefully.
And for those of you listening, holler at Christina on her website, ChristinaDunbar.com. Come check us out at awakentherebel.com. If you like this podcast, you want to send it to one of your friends who needs to be doing something geeky and artisty, but maybe isn't letting themselves, share it, subscribe, and leave us a review, but only if you liked it. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, and we'll check you out on the next one.